to 7 o'clock. I will call together this meeting of the Waterbury Selectboard on Monday, December 2nd, 2024. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda with the addition of an additional consent agenda item, and that is a request to cater permit from Salt for Salt LLC for an event on 12/4, and I have the paperwork here if anyone's curious.
Everybody has it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just note that the municipal manager is unable to attend this meeting due to illness, so we're proposing reviewing the agenda as it was warned, but recognizing we may have less background information or discussion other than the draft budget that the board received. So we just may need to adjust a future agenda, but proposing it as we warned it.
Agreed. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. The agenda is approved as amended. Next item is the consent agenda with the minutes and the item just introduced on the LLC application.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the consent agenda is approved as amended. Next is the public session. Anyone wishing to address anything not on the warrant agenda can please step forward, and I ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes if possible, and we'll be glad to put any other items on the agenda of an ensuing meeting. We don't have anyone there. We don't seem to have anyone here. Okay, we can move forward. The Velco pole replacement. We received this letter from Velco saying that warning us or asking for comments on a planned substitution of poles up, I believe it's off of Lush Hill. This was to replace a, at least I should remember that it's always that door.
The door looks
Locked.
that one.
Locked.
No, they shouldn't be. It's locked.
Wow.
To close door meeting.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
locked on the outside, is there like something that?
Oh, now they're both broken.
It's like catch.
It was unlocked, and I'm the only one right.
All right. Brief intermission while we unlock the door.
There's no one else out there.
I was just saying about this Velco request for comments. There was a laminated pole that was diagnosed as being dangerous and rotten, and they put in an emergency system, and they're now moving to a new system. So they're asking for feedback from the board. Any comments on this letter?
Isn't this the one that we provided comment because neighbors had concerns to ensure that a future pole was higher quality and not a temporary solution didn't become permanent? Or is this a different location?
No, this is the same one, but I believe that they are taking action as requested to, there's a 3-pole solution, and I believe this is to put in a single pole. And then I think there may be a plan to put in a even a better pole after this. We're asking for comments by December 13th. So if we do have a meeting next week, we can take a closer look and see if any of the concerned landowners will have time to review the proposed project and address it at the next meeting. Yeah, Ken?
Quick question, I guess, the way the map is drawn, the way the proposal to Velco, is one of these red lines runs right through the building. And it's their project area boundary. I can't imagine that their boundary is in someone's living room.
Yeah. We could include that in our comments. I suspect that they have a certain distance from the pole they consider the project boundary.
Sure.
And we can maybe ask that they do not put tape down in somebody's living room.
Well, I was wondering if it was just just the way it was drawn, or if the area boundary actually crosses over a building, was, I guess, what I was concerned about. But it does look like the rest of the area is pretty buttoned down.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the thickness of the red lines, I don't know.
Well, they didn't send anyone to provide any answers for us at this meeting.
Right.
So what we can do is note any questions
Yes.
that the board has and respond by the 13th.
Sure.
And if we're not gonna have a lot of comments on it tonight, I'd be happy to put this, repost this for the next meeting. That is the role we want.
Sure.
Okay. Just note that. All right, unless there's further discussion on this one, we will go forward. I did discuss this with the town manager. He seemed to think that they were addressing the concern that had been brought up at the last time that was brought up for the board. Okay, on to the next agenda item, which is first review of the 2025 budget and LOT funding. Again, as Alyssa mentioned earlier, our town manager is unavailable to meet with us tonight due to a medical emergency. We wish him the best, but he will not be available to provide any particular, shed any particular light. I would like to commend him on getting the budget, preliminary budget done early for 2025.
Yes, record time.
The intent is for us to review the budget through the end of this month and then put it out to the public and set a meeting date in January where we can take feedback line by line as necessary so that we would have time to review any items that people have questions about, concerns about, and then address those before the agenda gets warned for town meeting at the end of January. So that's our intent here. And we have a town budget, which I just got today. I will be the first to admit that I have not spent a lot of time with it. But the town manager did indicate that this will not be, based on this preliminary budget, he will not be asking for an increase in taxes in 2025 over 2024, tax rate. Yeah. Also.
I was gonna propose that, since for once we seem to have the luxury of time, that we go through it together, to the extent we think it's appropriate, and if Karen's willing to make me a co-host, I'm happy to screen share so that folks at home have their time. We have several pages of memo as well as draft budget.
Right.
You might have to try to read, yeah.
Yeah, you showed me this trick, right?
Well, I think it's the three dots next to the agency codes, but I think it does that. Yeah, let's see if we can get. Terrible resolution in the room, hopefully nothing on there.
So starting with the memo. Saying that the pilot payments from local option taxes from other towns were somewhat disappointing in 2024. And that he's gonna budget them flat for 2025.
The pilot thing is a little disturbing to me because, especially when we're taking on the armory, you know, which is gonna, I'm sure, have some additional services. And just, I think, we're seeing probably an increase of what the demand, you know, that the state is going to have on our community, that why we would see a, you know, decrease in revenue from pilot. But maybe that's just statewide, because the statewide budget, but I would think because Waterbury is such a high, we get high impact from state lands and buildings, that you would think there would be more, you know, they would be more generous at this time, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can note that down.
I don't know if we have any
See if there's any
recourse,
means of redress there, but
just
the
disappointing.
town manager, it seems to think that it's unlikely that will get addressed, so that he's going to budget it flat. Any other comments on that?
I'll make one. I think with, probably with our impact from natural disasters over the December through July months, I suppose. Some of the towns that have seen high tourism, like Montpelier, saw less, we saw less, other towns saw less, our foliage season was short, our ski season has already been shortened. I think Tom's right to assume that we should probably keep it flat, because tourism is likely going to be lower. Therefore, local option tax dollars through the pilot program are probably going to be less. That would be my comment.
All right. And maybe move on to the, there's a .44 payroll tax enacted by the state from childcare.
I think that's been in place since July, and I would say I support that, the town pay it, not in place.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as also stated, his option is for the town to pay this rather than imposing that tax on the town employees.
I think that's fair.
Okay. justification is that we're trying to keep this a competitive labor market and not give anyone undue reason to leave municipal employment. Next item is the $95,000 deductible expenses, which includes recent decision to assist employees with the transitional costs of health insurance. And so, essentially, this would, again, provide further support for those deductible expenses that will be paid by town employees on the municipal health insurance program.
I'll say on that note, I feel like we're operating under the same logic that, we want to maintain a competitive labor market, and I think this goes hand in hand with that.
Okay.
And that item was already really discussed at the joint meeting with E5, about healthcare costs, so.
That's true. Well, we did mention it as a possibility, and then later the select board adopted that policy. And I guess you would talk about along with it.
If it isn't at a meeting.
Okay. See if there's any further feedback from them. Transfers to finance for reappraisal and ongoing efforts to seek grants to mitigate the impact of future floods. I think it seems
Pertinent.
and yes, prescient to continue to make those transfers in anticipation of the likelihood of another flood event. Salaries and wages, he's proposing a 3% cost of living increase provided to employees 30 days after the town meeting. This year, we had a 4% cost of living increase. Inflation has gone down this past year, so it seems like 3% is in line with current inflationary measures. But I'll welcome any comments on that. Hearing none, we'll move forward. There's $20,000 to purchase a building security system.
I guess I have questions about that. I read through this when we received this email. I guess my question is, am I to understand that this building does not have a security system?
I think it's a new security system that would be would allow for card access.
Oh, that's right.
It's keyed access.
That's right. We spoke about that.
There are times when keys are given out, Karen's got to give up.
There's no security system in this building.
Okay.
It's called the key.
She said, public television.
So my concern was less the price tag and more surprised that the building
Yeah,
doesn't have a
we
security
have
system.
locks, we have keys
Yeah.
and door locks, and we did active shooter training in this room, this last summer. And then we've had a couple other incidents, one other specific incident in the building, and in line with that, we got some consultations done, and there's certainly some measures that could be taken. Some of them are very inexpensive to give the staff a better sense of security. so.
Yeah, that's great.
So keys.
Well, not the incidents,
keys were-
the.
Right, yeah, keys were just part of it, I think keys were just part of it.
Okay.
The part that I heard about with keys was that sometimes but over the weekend, this room has been available. Keys are left with individuals. There's not any real security that things will be locked when you leave.
Yeah.
People may walk in and do things that would not be helpful to the municipality.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions on that one? I don't think, $20,000 doesn't bowl me over as like the most expensive security.
No, I wasn't commenting on the price tag.
It's cheap.
Yeah, that's, I'm a little concerned that maybe.
Yeah, there was not
I'm
enough.
wondering how much security we get for 20,000.
Yeah.
But we can ask that question, we'll put a question mark there.
I think in general, a strategy around the items we want specific detailed info. I said we had the luxury of time, and now it spent us 10 minutes to get one page. So just
You
recognizing.
didn't know how efficient I was.
Well, trying to balance what we have the answers to tonight and just flagging those things that we want to get
Okay.
additional information on.
I'll move on to public safety. So we have a fixed price from the state police until 2026, right?
Correct. So we reauthorized this summer, I believe, and there had been a significant increase since our previous 3-year contract, so that's now being built into the budget, but we won't need to make an increase again next year because it is a set rate throughout the life of the contract.
Okay, so next is the ambulance.
Yeah.
They're asking for an increase.
Major increase.
Yeah.
So it's really-
And the town manager's been looking into contracts across the state, and which go all over the board. In general, I think we'd like to try to maintain Waterbury ambulance service as an independent service, but the cost to the municipality may have to go up in order for that to happen. Any other comments on ambulance? Recreation. Discussions I've had with the town manager on this one, this was mostly around the ability to find reliable staff. And as a consequence, he's recommending that we decrease the numbers for the summer rec program, which means decreased revenues and decreased expenses.
And I think there's a fair amount when we get into local option tax
Yeah.
regarding those expending that.
Right.
I would say I have questions just around the feasibility for a facility and right next steps.
Just recollect that we did talk about the pool earlier, and I believe we approved the application of this new product to increase the sealant on the pool, which should decrease the amount of water loss and may lengthen the viability of the existing pool. Any other comments on recreation?
Yeah, the last sentence of the first paragraph on recreation, is, I don't have anything to go off of here. There would be, I guess, a question for Tom. But Ian's a teacher. Have you noticed increased, it just says same behaviors, but I would probably interpret that as not the best behaviors if the schools hire specialists and interventionalists. I guess I'm at a loss at what exactly that means. Just would you just boil it down to misbehaved children? No.
On terminology, we see anything for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a holdover from COVID years where students missed, the important social dynamics and grew from those experiences. And we've absolutely seen across the board just less mature students that have just missed important critical moments of, their
Lack
upbringing.
of socialization.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
That answers my question.
So, we may have to be prepared for resocialization measures.
Or just being prudent about what the town has the capacity to hire for and making sure we're being safe. It sounds like we're right sizing and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments or questions on recreation? Yeah.
Just in line with that comment, be cognitive that most of these kids are kindergarten through 4th grade. So most of the older kids are aging out. The COVID thing isn't gonna, you can't keep playing that card anymore. These kids weren't, they weren't affected.
Very small.
They didn't lack school and socialization because they were too little.
But there could be their parents.
Maybe I fall into that bucket.
Okay.
Highway. If anyone reads faster than I do, please raise your hand. So, seems like you're saying that the highway budget will be level funded.
I guess first paragraph runs into the second page here. Transitional costs, is that just filing for retirement?
Good question, I really don't know.
It also says it not be a dramatic budgetary impact.
Right.
Yep.
That will have an impact on operations. One thing that I talked over with Tom was trying to purchase enough gravel for road improvement and not just catching up with mud season. Because the type of work that was done on Sweet Road this year requires quite a bit of aggregate, and so that in order to sort of get ahead and get recrown on dirt roads that are starting to get eroded out, may require more gravel than we've been able to purchase in the past. There may be something in here about getting a new truck to make that more feasible. other questions about roads and highways? Let's see why we don't have much of an audience. Library and cemetery. There we go. Now I got something.
Please note that this budget has not been.
Has not been presented.
approved by
Okay.
the other commissioners, so fresh forever.
Mhm. Stay. Okay, so there's a handshake agreement to reduce the use of the library trust fund from 45,000 down to 30,000. Rachel, would you care to address anything on this, or are you?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward this year, nothing unusual in the library's budget.
Okay, good. Mike?
Rachel, just out of curiosity, what's the need to lessen that request?
Just reserve the trust fund for future ongoing years. Last year was an unusual increase to help cover some of those additional, that increase in pay, but going forward, we're dropping back down to what's been sort of the standard.
Okay, so that was a historical one.
Yep, that was an
Okay.
unusual situation.
I misremembered.
It was a year ago.
Yep,
It's all cleaned up, you know?
yep.
I was gonna say, there was quite a lot of discourse about that.
Slap
Great conversation.
water under the bridge. We're looking forward. Okay, cemetery.
Sorry, go on.
We have some concerns, I guess, to bring up with Tom next time
Mm-hmm.
we're all in a room together about the utilization of part-time employees and whether we can rely on that labor or not.
Okay. From what I heard, the shift to using part-time employees from the town rather than going with contractors. The contract, we went from a pretty affordable contract to an unaffordable contract. And I heard that the shift to using part-time employees from the municipality worked reasonably well. But glad to put that on the question.
It was less about how much it costs and more about, are the part-time employees already full-time municipal employees who are doing this, or are they just
They're contractors.
contractors?
They're like, I see the bills all the time for a mowing service or something like that.
I would, and maybe this was intent, right, part-time, I think they were seasonal.
Yeah, that's where my mind
There was a
went to.
couple of guys that
Yeah.
worked all summer, I did not see them part-time, I saw them all the time
Right.
mowing and doing parks work. So I think, though I see he used part-time, I question if he meant seasonal employees.
Gotcha. And that, I guess, yeah, that specific use of seasonal is why I've posed the question, is whether that specific brand of labor is reliable. Seasonal employees, as seasonal employees tend to move place to place depending on the season.
Okay.
Maybe
Other
bring
questions,
up,
Mike?
maybe bring up a sore subject. I know it's been discussed about possible maintenance agreements for the lot, grave lot, families and stuff like that. You see a lot of cemeteries have perpetual care agreements and stuff like that, where they pay either so much upfront or so much. Yeah, I know supposedly it's like, I think goes way back when, I think they paid a very nominal rate, which I think, included maintenance. But I think it's something, I don't know how, if you could go back, or if for new people who are purchasing lots that, you know, you have some sort of a maintenance agreement
Service agreement?
that would help, you know, stabilize that cemetery fund.
We can certainly ask.
Something to look at.
Other questions about the cemetery budget? Fire?
It is but one paragraph. It would appear that the LOT is really coming through
I know, right?
this budget.
Okay. Thank goodness for debt relief. I believe the board has already provided provisional approval for the $380,000 for the new fire truck.
I believe we have.
Planning.
Are we gonna have the
Amy,
LLP?
LOT stands for local options tax. So anytime you see that, that's what it's referring to.
Are we
It
gonna,
is called on as a backup rather frequently. Yes.
right, that's what I'm saying, are we gonna have enough money? There are a lot of items that refer to the local options tax. You know, can we, I know it's a backup, but
Yeah.
You'll see the abbreviation listed about 17 times. for
yes,
additional
it's there a
considerations.
lot.
Yes, but it's,
I don't know if we could,
is there going to be a lot? Is the question. Okay.
Wow.
Amy is here. I don't know if I received an email, maybe you did as well.
Oh, sure, I printed it, but I got the
Okay. Is that
I'll go get it.
in here?
I apologize, I think I did it late. I'll go get it, it's probably on the printer.
Okay. Amy Marshall County submitted a budget for the Conservation Commission. And I don't know whether that got taken into consideration in these prepared memos or budgets.
Based on the date of this letter, I don't believe so, Roger, because I think this draft was done yesterday,
Correct.
and I submitted today.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we're just getting copies of this now, but Amy, if you could maybe just walk us through what you're proposing.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So I can just generalize a bit and say that we did intend on securing or tried to secure grant funds this year. We were not successful. And all of which were, for the majority of the expense, was associated with some proper terminology that's been shared with me is upland hydrology and natural communities field-based inventory mapping. So we spent a fair bit of time as a commission really better understanding like what's available for us in terms of the natural communities in Waterbury. And we have some state-based resources. We've met with several folks that have been able to share with us some GIS mapping. All of them have said, hey, we really don't have this kind of on the ground understanding, and that's the piece you folks are missing. Mm-hmm. So in terms of helping where we felt we needed some assistance is to get that level to support the municipal plan, specifically the zoning guidance that the planning commission is going to be preparing for the 2026 update. So that's a big piece here. That's the largest item that we're asking. That doesn't mean that, what I don't know here, I'm on the fence because it's a burden that I don't really want to apply to taxpayers. However, we also recognize it's a gap that we have in terms of being able to truly understand what we're dealing with. So we're going to continue to pursue grants, and the hope is that we would secure one or more. But in the absence of that, we thought it'd be best just to push forward the request and then have a conversation if that's how this process works. Some other smaller, I'll call them relatively small, but then in the grand scheme of the Conservation Commission historical budget, it's been around $700 a year, which we quickly realized was not enough to even get us through the LEAP fair this year with proper printing and brand, logo and all of that. So I think we were right about that budget or just over it. So we put in some money there as well this year, expecting that we're going to need some educational materials, printed materials, that also will accompany what we've been talking about for well over a year now, at least since I've been there, is educational programs that we really haven't invested in at the Conservation Commission. We talked about a lot about them. So we started to get some grounding there, and we think that we have some either wildlife experts, that some of them, the state-based ones, could be for free, but others would not be. So we wanted to set aside some dollars there. And then the last, one minor is a membership association to the Association of Vermont Conservation Commissions. That's $50. It looked like that was negated last year. Our membership ran out in 2023, so I just wanted to bring that current. And then the last one is a request to put forth a request for appropriating monies to get into the conservation fund. Again, I want to talk through this, but the thinking here is as we were pursuing the grant process, what we learned in a couple of them is that they require a match. So from the town, or for example, the municipal body would need to provide a minimum of a 10% match. And as we looked at that $30,000 grant, we were just shy, I think, of $3,000 in that conservation fund. So what we were trying to do here is to suggest that we try to get that to a level where if we are going to continue to pursue grants, we have some form of funding to be able to match that.
Mm-hmm. Questions for Amy? Melissa?
I'm just recognizing we're reading this now in real time, so thank you. I want to commend you for your proactivity both in attending the meetings, asking about the budget process, and proposing this early. And I'll just say, speaking for myself, like one of the ongoing challenges is we're working on a sooner budget timeframe than in the past, and figuring out how to message that and liaise with boards and committees is an ongoing work in progress, and just be transparent about that. So I appreciate that you're working to engage with it, and we're working to improve the system, but we don't always have all the answers up front. So just to be real about that. And I hope my intent was not to say that we wanted a budget proposal, though I'm glad we have it. I think our goal was to have a timeline of the budget processing, including this type of follow-up, but you're gonna be ahead of the curve now because we have everything. And I think we can discuss this again at the next meeting. Appreciating some of the bullets you have here around floodplain management is things, again, we're talking about now in this first draft around what is a comprehensive mitigation strategy, how are we funding it, and where. So appreciate that you all are keeping that on our radar. I do think the Waterworks is owned by eFund, so some of it is their stuff, but.
Good, yeah, thank you. And I didn't, you're calling out, I didn't have the letter up, but there's 3 bullets that loose conversations have been happening or here and there in varied groups, but yet not really clear if the Conservation Commission, I know within some of our defined role versus our partner role versus other entities. So as we learn more, we'll be prepared.
Amy, the grant, what is the grant cycle and to whom are you looking to apply for grant funding?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. There's a lot, actually. So we already applied to the UVM Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships. They have two different types of grants. I actually, ironically, no sooner did I send you folks this note and I got a reply back. Although our fund was not awarded, they do want to carry on conversation. So we're hopeful that we might actually have access to a capacity grant. I don't want to belabor that too much, but what that really helps us with is get some subject matter expertise perhaps into the conversation. There may even be an opportunity where graduate students could participate in some work. So that door is still open for conversation at this point. Then there's others, like of course the municipal grant, Nature Conservancy's Resilient and Connected Appalachians grant. So there's some work there, but that's going to be, all of them have some very specific scopes of coverage. There's also the data center, they can help out with, so that's Center for Rural Studies, part of UVM. So if we're literally looking to capture data analysis and things like that, we might be able to parse out scopes of this work and piecemeal it. There's Vermont Urban and Community Forestry Program. There's also Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. They have like operations assistance, and that one is fresh to me, so I'm still looking into that one, but it looked like it might be something where we could, again, piecemeal a little bit. Then another one that we actively submitted to is the Vermont Community Foundation, which is, we proposed through a philanthropic request, and then got some feedback from one of their administrators, very specific to a watershed and water quality grant process, which I don't have that name right in front of me, it's in my notebook, but that one came to mind particularly with the Cornfield Project, after having that conversation with Tom about that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there's a whole host of federal grants for state wildlife grants. Those we haven't really been focusing on as much right now because that hasn't been the core of what we're trying to prioritize, but they may be helpful if, again, if we need to piecemeal some monies together and habitat becomes part of our the inventorying element, we might be able to secure some funds there, I'm not sure. But right now, we are in the very early stages, which is really building out an understanding of what those available grants are we eligible, getting really clear about what expenses are eligible, also being very clear about our project, which we have one defined, and then of course as those other 3 bullets get fleshed out, there may be more, but
Yeah.
those are the groups we've been trying to better understand at this point. Cycle, I think, was your original question. They vary a bit. So some are ongoing, some will, you can submit all year round, some have very clear deadlines. And again, our goal is, I've asked one of our members to, we have a planning matrix, have her pull together key pieces of that information so that we'll have it ready for next week's conservation meeting. So we can share it more broadly.
Great. Well, as Alyssa mentioned, we are going to continue meeting this month and next on this. So perhaps we'll look for a good opportunity to invite you back. And if that matrix was available, it would better inform us as to what the impacts could be, and maybe even try to anticipate which of those, as Tom mentioned in this memo to us, he's anticipating getting a municipal planning grant from the Planning Commission, and we may find that we could anticipate the Conservation Commission getting one or more of those grants, and if we can't, then sort of what we would need to do within the budget, which is under our control.
Thank you.
Wouldn't?
And I can make this grant, the grant matrix available once we've got it fleshed out a little more further.
That'd be great. Mike?
I'll ask Amy, the upland hydrology and natural communities, not the easiest thing to say, but would that be part of our town plan kind of review, and wouldn't we be doing that in conjunction with everything that we're gonna do for the town plan I hate to jump the gun and then this is something that we kind of have to do for the town plan.
Yeah, good question. So clarifying this is to say that, yes, it would be primarily subservient to that, but it's more about getting the right resource to conduct the work. So for example, last meeting, we had Jens Hilke come in.
Yeah.
He provided a few different updates, one of which was Sharkyville, and then we started talking about, hey, this is what we have for maps, this is what we understand, and we talked about the municipal plan and what would be most helpful, and that's where he strongly advocated that in all of these, there's disparate gaps, right? Like, so we looked at some wetlands map. There were some glaring holes. Quickly, of course, the state was very helpful in saying, yes, they're not, if you can let us know, we'll get them updated, that kind of thing. But the gist of it was not only HAY, but even Central Vermont Regional Planning had advised that really in order to really get this locked down and clarified for the town of Waterbury, it's the boots on the ground work. And so it kind of likens to that Arrowwood. I mean, that's one vendor, but we haven't locked into that as much as to say the concept is to actually hire someone or a group of some people or secure through UVM or whomever in the biology realm and hydrology realm where they can come in and actually conduct that work in specific targeted areas. We don't suspect that we're going to need to do that throughout the entire town. And that's where that original estimate came from, was at the highest level through Arrowwood. We would expect it would be that or less for that work, but it is in service to deliver a more refined understanding for the municipal plan. So it would be in for that work. Just we're trying to coordinate getting that activity performed.
Because wouldn't this be somewhat similar to when we have Dave Capon do the research for the, when we did the Ridgeline, report, and he did the things for, at least for the Ridgelines, I know it's not as comprehensive as this, but.
I think so. I'm not intimately familiar with that, but my understanding is that we also, we would have, there was another gentleman that came in, he was a wetlands consultant that came and spoke to us, and so there's very specialized folks that know how to do this in a way that helps articulate the town through that lens. That's very specific and accurate, which is where we're starting to get, we have good enough is the way it was used by Jens, is we have good enough work to go forward with the plan, but ideally we'd want to get the more accurate.
Can we get help from the Wetlands Division in A&R to help us with that?
Well, I've already made a couple calls there, so they have other jobs, but we are getting advice. I would say that from the boots on the ground analysis, no, we will not, for the town of Waterbury at this point, get dedicated support for that from them.
Okay, they would do like
It's taken me 3
stuff.
weeks to get to get a call back from one person, so they're pretty strapped. And we got the same feedback in general from, I even was talking with Forest Parks and Rec. I've talked to another gentleman, Brad, who I think he's Forest Parks and Rec too, but they don't have enough resources to provide that level without compensation, of course, but even at the state level. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And again, I'll just reiterate the price tag that was put in there is not, it's higher than what we would expect. Well, that's what we're hoping for, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Great, any other questions for Amy? All right, Amy, thank you for this. We will take this into consideration and we'll be working through this, as I said, over the next several weeks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. I don't know if we got completely through planning here. I think basically they're going to be applying for a municipal grant to help with the town plan, which we anticipate that we will get, but if not, it indicates that there's LOT funding that could could be allocated to support that effort. And then other considerations. Sideways at least level funded. No particular increase for the animal control officer.
Working just fine.
Mr. Lights is doing a bang-up job.
Mhm.
Alright, so I was thinking that with the increased lot funding, maybe we'll look at the tax stabilization somewhat differently in the coming years, and that while there will be a net increase of expenses by $58,000, he's thinking that will be offset by an increase in the town spread list, resulting in a 0% increase in the town's tax rate. So we're at 8 o'clock, which is the time that we budgeted for this discussion. If there are other points that we need to take on right now, glad to hear about it. Otherwise, we can put it off to the next meeting. Melissa?
I would love to review local option tax in depth. I really appreciate that there's a multi-year forecast, because I think for some of these things, I will say like fire trucks, for example, it's really nice to see that we're anticipating needing one in X amount of time and kind of that bigger picture. I also am curious around budgeting 730 and just where that falls in terms of how conservative. I think we're projecting, like based on this year's 690, does that feel reasonable? And maybe some conversations around what things we would fund first, and if there was less funding than anticipated, because who knows what's happening next year, what we are and aren't counting on. Just noting that we've moved a fair amount out of the budget, and while I really appreciate that we're doing that with the goal of a flat tax rate, want to make sure we have contingencies again if for whatever reason we have less local option tax revenue.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those concerns as well, especially in the LOT plan for the coming years. With the estimated annual revenues seem to go up each year. And I'm wondering, one, where those numbers are coming from, and two, are these conservative enough?
Okay.
I think we need Tom to make these.
Right.
decisions.
Yeah, I was just saying, to be clear, I'm not saying I
No, they're just.
love that Tom has drafted this
Yes.
and excited to dive into it more. There's also, I mean, a lot of fun stuff in here, pickleball courts. Like, we got
Big question about that.
time for a deep dive at a future meeting, but
Yeah.
for those at home who didn't get.
We'll have
the email,
enough budget
just to say.
meetings to flesh these things out.
And I guess what I heard from Tom was that a lot of this is based on the third quarter revenues of $230 this year. He's anticipating that we'll see approximately the same figure at the end of the fourth quarter this year, which would bring us to $460, but that the first two quarters are generally lighter than that. so that rather than going up to a full 920, which would be a full cycle of getting 230 a quarter, he's trying to be a little bit more conservative and suggesting that revenues would be more around 800,000 or something like that. And we can ask him to go into further detail on that as well. Any other comments on the LOT budget? Okay. And again, this will be back on the agenda for our next meeting. Take some time to look more deeply into that, come up with further questions. All right. Unless there are other questions people would like to, or issues people would like to bring up around the first edition, yeah, Mike.
Karen may know this. Have we yet have any additional special article requests coming toward us in the coming year?
No, but they brought me.
That's, I figured it's early, but,
It is early, yeah, there's still time.
yeah, okay. Thanks.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the 2025 town meeting schedule. The first Tuesday, just looking to back ourselves up, will be the 4th of March, 2025. And so therefore, our warning needs to go out.
We didn't ask Karen to be prepared, but I will say the intent of this agenda item was to create a schedule or have one that we could review, but to back us up for when the final warning needs to go out, when we have time to get input from folks for the budget, which is planned to be January.
Right.
So we can do some of that live in real time, but also if we don't have all the info. Is it a 40-day warning, do you know?
47, it's actually on this page.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. So we do have a thing.
So that was specifically about petitions, but
Thank you.
the warning for annual meeting must be received by the Selectboard at least 47 days prior to town meeting. So, let's do that.
Thank you.
I'm still waiting on, the Secretary of State often puts out a calendar for us, which is hugely useful, so we don't have to calculate all these on our fingers. So that's why I wrote January 16th, I think it's in parentheses, if it's not highlighted, because that's my calculation. It could be off by a day, because I might have miscounted, so. So I've asked everybody for their funding requests by January 10th to give me time to prepare for the warning, so. So when I get an email asking me what the due date is, I give them January 10th, not January 16th.
Ooh, I have a procedural question. So the due date for petitions to run for public office are January 20th, right? And we're trying to push.
I still told everybody January 10th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just, and we're trying to get ahead of schedule. I was just wondering how that works with the Secretary of State's office, because I didn't even think about that till right now.
What do you mean,
To
how it
get
works?
signatures and that sort of thing?
No, yeah, I mean, if there's a state deadline for a petition and we're pushing ballot deadlines up, does one affect the other?
My understanding is we're not changing the legal binding town meeting date, but we want to recognize that if we want people to have binding input ahead of town meeting, we have to have time to adjust it prior to the warning. In theory, again, recognizing the timeline. So I understand we're
Yes.
voting everything for real on town meeting day
Right.
as normal, but if we want to practice the have your PAG day solution of having a conversation ahead of time,
That's
we
right.
would have to do it before the 40 days.
Yeah.
So that we can change it for real, is that?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how we went
No,
from what
but-
he asked me to what you said, but,
No, but I get what she was trying to say and questions answered.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, your name from your petition.
No, it wasn't, it was just a general question, it wasn't necessarily about me, or,
Okay.
I was just thinking about it.
Generally about,
Yeah, just ballots.
So if the ballot for town meeting doesn't go through the Secretary of State, I have to get it.
Got it.
I have to work with the tabulator, to get the cards made. It's not like the general election where they do it all
Right.
and just deliver me thousands of boxes. It's just a little different.
so and do we have a deadline for when those signatures would be due?
I'm sure that a deadline exists, I don't know it off the top of my head, I didn't come with that information.
Very good. We can find out in the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks. Other,
Like I said, everybody that's asked me for a petition, I told them January 10th.
Mhm.
So more stuff I have back by January the 10th, the happier I'll be, so.
and petitions are already available, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. All right, other elements of the schedule, is there anything else that we think we can anticipate now, or would ask for more information by next meeting?
I think just with the January 10th/17th, I'm feeling the pressure around needing to set a date for that Have Your Pie Input Day. I guess just recognizing, I think the goal of this is that we need to back up. So if it's the 4th, we need to have it finalized 40 days beforehand, and we need to have an input session and then ideally a select
We have
board
to
meeting for
review
us
session
to,
after the review
yeah,
session.
to digest it, that the window for those dates are getting smaller.
Mhm.
And so,
So, let's see. Our first meeting in January, normally the 6th.
Oh, right.
And then, in the past couple of years anyways, we have been meeting every Monday, with the exception of Martin Luther King holiday, we met on the following Tuesday. 13th is Martin Luther King, I believe.
I mean, it's the 20th?
Oh, maybe it's the 20th, yeah.
Yeah.
20th, I think. Yep. It's the 20th. So we could meet on the 13th,
we also talked about a Saturday
Saturday.
or an alternate time or multiple times. All of this is fine, but I agree the 13th is a compelling date.
It's weird, I feel like we've already talked about these dates, because for some reason, all of my Mondays in January are select board.
Because we probably said we're budgeting in January and
Yeah.
block them off. I have
Yeah,
a
so I
recurring
block- yeah, so I
calendar
blacked them out,
event, yeah. I'm,
This one issue is, are we excluding people by having this meeting, this larger meeting on a Monday night as opposed to a Saturday?
I would do it January 11th.
And
Yeah.
We could also offer
January
two, but then does that diminish who actually shows up for each by having two options?
I don't think, giving people more options shouldn't necessarily reduce the overall input, it's supposed to increase it.
So we could offer, like, I guess my question, and I'm happy to take on meeting with Tom and Karen and drafting a schedule, but I feel like we need to approve a schedule on the 10th. At
Okay.
least for us to know about when we're gonna have our final draft ready, then in theory, that's something we're presenting to the public at this date, or ideally ahead of time, so they have some time to digest it, and then have a conversation
Yeah.
at that meeting.
Well, I think that given the progress to date, it's reasonable to assume that we would be able to finalize a provisional budget by the 6th of January, and then present that on Saturday, the 11th.
Yeah.
For public comment, and then have a follow-up meeting on the 13th for anyone that couldn't make it on that Saturday. Does that sound like a reasonable plan?
Are we aiming for 7 o'clock on that Saturday?
7 o'clock, I wasn't thinking 7 o'clock on Saturday, and depending on whether you're talking AM or PM. I'd say
PM.
Uh,
For Sherman PM.
No, I was thinking like a daytime meeting on Saturday.
Yeah.
Assuming that more people in the general public have that Monday to Friday work thing.
Yeah.
And therefore, they would have more time available.
Those archaic schedules.
Yes, yes, those olden time schedules.
Sorry, did you say January 11th?
I did, what's that?
Oh, I was just looking at the information he sent me a while ago in Duxbury, and there's on January 13th, so it seems like you're right. I checked their calendar and they don't have it posted, so I don't know when they're theirs this year, but.
Just throw a time at me.
How do you like 10 o'clock?
I was just gonna say 10, I think it's great.
10 o'clock, sounds
Very good, it gives you time to go to the dump and get back.
After music together,
Yeah, that's good, just about the time they wrap up, music to go to the dump by.
10 o'clock AM, correct?
10 o'clock AM this time, yes. On the 11th, and then 7 o'clock PM on the 13th.
Finalize it next meeting, we'll have a 1 month notice.
What kind of hours are you planning on? 2 hours for the meeting?
So it's more than adequate, well, about adequate.
Just about.
Yeah.
2 hours, yeah. 10, 12. We'll see if the meeting room is available here. We expect that we'll need a larger venue than this.
They do it at the school. I mean, I guess it's a broader.
Dinner?
Are we bringing pie? Are we having fun? Are we doing playtime for the kids? I do this for a living, and so then we have like a budget to do that, but
No.
we do pizza, we do pie, we do.
This will be in 2025, so I have to see if he's included any playtime activities. We could make it more fun.
I like pie. I'll make a pie.
And we just did a pancake breakfast for the employees, that was fun.
It's like Rotary, we do pie for breakfast.
Pie for breakfast, okay,
I like pie.
pie is good,
It's great.
okay.
We charge $10.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that is.
Maybe we can make some money.
That'd be a disincentive to share. Maybe not. Maybe that's a good deal.
Okay.
Okay. They do ask for donations even at the lunch for people after the town meeting, right?
Yeah.
We could inquire if the fire station is available, if that accommodates more people and has a
Yeah,
kitchen.
be a good location, right?
All right, shall we put that on the tentative
Yep.
agenda? We can
Yep.
check availability.
Final review dates next week.
Do you want to, Cheryl, do you want to be part of the fun committee?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, good. All right. Any other things that we need to talk about now? All right. Proposed to be confirmed at the next meeting?
Yeah, because the other is, can we all then do MLK Monday for the select board digestion or follow-up, or do we need to schedule?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I guess then,
Well, we can address that right now. If MLK holiday is not gonna work for people, what do you think about the following Tuesday, 21st?
Isn't MLK on the 20th?
Yeah.
It is on the 20th, and
Okay.
it is on a Monday, so for those honoring the holiday, or otherwise indisposed,
No, really.
great.
It is also Inauguration Day, he's absolutely right.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Let's just pack all the government into one day. We'll get our inauguration out of the way in the morning. I think the best thing we could do is have a meeting of local government.
On the 21st?
21st, wanna do Tuesday?
Oh, no, I was making.
Maybe you want it on the 20th.
Yeah.
It's fine with me too. I can do the 20th, I just wanted to address it before we now or like,
Okay, actually, just a show of hands, who would like to keep it on the 20th? Hands up. Who would like to move it to the 21st?
I don't care. I'd go with
Who's good with either?
I'm good with
All right.
you have to work, right?
I would have to work on
If it's
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah, so let's do it on.
All right, so keep it on the 20th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Day of service, we're doing our service.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Duck and cover.
Yes, the irony of inauguration day, Martin Luther King Day on the same day.
It is kind of.
Yeah, the dream has changed. Okay, we'll keep it on the 20th, and that will be the day in which we review comments, right? And then,
Right, and then the missing pieces, we just need to figure out how much after that we would need to sign the warning and make sure we're not driving Karen out
So
of her
we
job.
meeting-
And there's a time to have a final printed thing that we all sign.
So should we tentatively block out the 27th?
27th for that?
And the question is, we haven't counted the 40 days yet, but assuming that's fine, then yes, I like that plan.
Yeah, it's gonna be close to 40 days. Exactly.
So,
Close we are.
again, we can approve it the next week if it's workable for all. Then we need to sign the warning for town meeting based on the
Making a note, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
making a note, realizing that you didn't get a petition from me. Okay. In case you need one. Actually,
Yeah, it's gonna be close on the 40 days, on the 27th.
I don't think you got it from me
In
last
case of-
time, so
In case of
just
emergency.
make sure it has all the information you need.
Petition is a way of finding me.
You can get elected without one.
Perfect.
All right, any further debate on the scheduling? All right, let's move on to the next item, special articles,
Specifically skate park.
specifically
Yeah.
skate park. There was some discussion about the skate park. They came to us with a request for $50,000. That motion did not carry. So we suggested they might want to reduce the request to the board for funding to complete the skate park. The other suggestion that came up was whether this could be a special article and bring it before the voters on town meeting day. In which case they would need some petitions to get it, their special article on the warrant agenda.
Has anyone come to you for a petition, Karen?
No, you can put it on there too, remember?
Okay.
You as a board can decide to do it without them having to petition.
Okay,
Hmm.
good to know.
I'll let that as random.
So, I guess that is question for debate, go ahead. Melissa?
Well, I'm not trying to be circular, but I am noting we have $42,000 in the current draft budget of local option tax next year for the basketball park and skate park, so I guess my question would be if and how much we split between the two. I personally am okay with some amount in the budget, a lower amount than the request, and the additional amount being the petition. I would propose we, I mean, I guess what information we need to make that distinction is the question for me, for like inviting them back, since they're not here, right?
And my guess is by putting both those on there, the idea is that we would need, we dedicate some money to the skate park, but also the current plan is to put the skate park where the basketball court is right now, and switch it. And I may be mistaken, but I'm not sure that the skate park budgeted for rebuilding the basketball court.
Which was, though it was in their plan. When
Plan was in the budget.
first proposed to us, their plan included the reconstruction of the basketball court.
Okay. All right. But maybe you're right, we should just invite them back next week, maybe the following week, to address that in more detail. You have something?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't wanna feel like we're wasting their time, if they're gonna come before us and we don't, take any action. I am concerned that they haven't come in for a petition. That does concern me. Cause I feel like I would have in that position.
Again, we don't have to come to me to get one,
No,
as long as the
I
petition
understand.
has all the right information on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, many organizations do that. I guess I would say like common practice, we've been using the word petition a lot tonight, and I'll defer to our clerk to clarify, but my understanding is there's a couple of different types of petitions. Folks who are seeking to have their name placed on the ballot for election complete a petition. And also, as outlined on this handout we've got, organizations can petition to be on the town meeting warning.
Right.
Seeking funding. I'm just noting, we've used the word petition like 15 times tonight, and it can refer to both of these things. I know some organizations are very practiced in having a form, leaving it at a local business establishment, completing the signatures, but that's not something that we encourage folks to check with you, right, to ensure that they would have a legally binding, but it doesn't have to.
Well, I can only speak from experience, Alyssa. Last year, the Legion petitioned to get on the ballot, and I answered numerous questions from various members of that organization about the petition. So I assumed that most people that were doing it for the first time would also have numerous questions, and I would hear from them or about it. But it is entirely possible that somebody on the Skate Park Coalition has, that level of understanding about it, and they don't need any advice, and they've got I haven't seen a petition, I've not been asked to sign one, but it is possible that they're being circulated right now at a cocktail party that we're not at.
Because we're here. And I would say, I think we encourage them as an option. I don't know that we, at my recollection of our conversation was that we presented all of this as options. We weren't so far as to say, we definitely will or will not fund this amount. We said like, what we're hearing right now is a maybe, here's some other options. We're gonna be budgeting soon, so we'll get back to you. So I love the proposal of, since, like I'm saying, I was just saying, Tom built it into the draft, so that's gonna warrant some discussion. If we don't wanna have them here while we're having that discussion, I mean, we can, for transparency, just invite them next week and say, listen in, we're gonna talk about it, or we can invite them the week after and say, we talked about it, we came up with this amount that's in the budget. So we're proposing this in the budget, if you feel you need more than that,
I like option two.
Yeah.
here's how
That's
to.
smart.
Lisa?
I'm remembering part of that conversation that Alyssa's talking about, where one of the items that was mentioned to the skate park people was we still have unallocated ARPA money. And we gave ARPA money to the Stowe Street Alley project, not to the tune of $60,000 that they asked for, but there was like the $20,000 or $25,000 that went to the alley project, and that was mentioned to them as, well, maybe this could be a comparable request, and the ARPA money could potentially be a source of funding. And it was just like thrown out, because there was like sort of a list of like, oh, we could do this, this, or this, and that was one of the items. So I never left that conversation, that meeting, thinking that they were being sent to go get a petition. It sounded like there were a few different avenues, but it was still up in the air, and they didn't come in with a written proposal that night, so it was to be continued kind of thing. But that's
The
how.
petition was just an option for them.
Right, like if I was to be reporting that, that's how it was in my head, like how that was, where that, we left that story,
Right.
so, anyway.
And remember one comment that I had was that it seemed as though they had designed a very large facility, and that there was the option of cutting that down, narrowing it down, in part because there are other complications like drainage, the fact that it goes out into the area normally used by soccer, Waterbury soccer, and that given the anticipated usage, maybe a smaller facility might work, like it did for several years. And then ostensibly, a smaller facility would cost less money. And that they could come back to us with a revised plan. So that's what my recollection of the discussion. But I like your idea of going back to Tom and seeing like what he has in mind with that. Taking a look and seeing if there are unallocated ARPA funds. I don't think there's a lot of it. I think all of it was allocated in some way, but there may be some because of the funding, part of the funding that was going to go to senior center did not get spent. So there may be some unallocated funding that does have to get allocated within the next 30 days. So let's put it on the agenda for next week and then invite them for the, is it 16th? Yeah. Okay, other discussion on the skate park or other special articles.
I appreciate, could I ask Karen, we have an attached printout here, is this a report back on who has?
Yeah, that's my working spreadsheet.
I love that, because I will say we created the
Black
policy,
magic marker.
and it seems as though most folks, we don't have outstanding people who weren't allocated. Oh, it's the back, thank you. So you've emailed all the humans, or organizations, I should say, who
I
were
have, yes, I've emailed all the humans at the organizations.
on the back page, so this is a copy of last year's town meeting.
That's right.
Warning.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Articles
Wow.
10 through 19.
Should be.
These were the organizations,
So
we
it's just-
made a motion last year or the year before to say that we wanted the policy to be that they needed to invoice the town for this amount. Those that are crossed out have done so. Karen has done the courtesy of emailing them, those other ones informing them that this is just an update that some have not. So we plan to just not award that funding for the policy if they don't invoice.
So about the policy, I
Yeah.
spoke with some of you about this and not all of
Yeah.
you. The policy was done, I believe, on April 15th of last year. It took me forever to find it.
It was the meeting where the Zoom was crashing.
It took me forever to find it. So the way, and I apologize, I didn't bring it, I should have, it's probably on my desk, but the way it's worded is the town clerk will notify all the petitioners that they were awarded their funding and tell them to invoice her immediately and for payment. Well, the town clerk never did that, so they didn't get that warning in April 2024 to get me that invoice. I'm just getting invoices now because I'm emailing them asking them for invoices. So I will have to start that policy this March. After town meeting, I can just create one email and BCC everybody for my own ease and just say, you know, you were awarded your funding, please send me an invoice as soon as possible. Part of this is because historically, we paid these invoices in December. I don't know why, I'm not even gonna speculate because I have no idea, but we only paid appropriation invoices in December. I've talked with Tom, neither he or I have any idea why that would be done, and so I can pay them anytime. Send it to me and I pay you. So I will have to start enforcing your policy this year, in all fairness, because I didn't tell them that I wasn't going to pay them if they didn't invoice me by December 31st. The only real culprit in that, you know, that was a real thorn in my spine was Green Mountain Transit Agency. Now, if you look at the general ledger you'll see we paid them a long, long time ago. The reason is because they didn't invoice me until after the 1st of January. So it got paid and coded as a 2024 expense. No,
So did they miss the 2020?
I think
Three
they missed
expense?
their 2023 payment.
Oh.
And
No wonder service is being cut.
given,
Yeah.
and I say that because I just got their request for appropriations for this year. So they obviously know we're on their list. They've asked for level funding.
The 0 or the 6,500?
2,380 something going. It's only, so they only asked us for $2,382.49. Sorry,
Okay.
don't look at my notes or my.
Oh, I was
those are-
reading,
Those are different notes. That's the senior center, sorry.
Yeah.
I could have made a clean one, but
No.
No,
anyway, that's where we're at. There's only a handful of people still to pay, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And some of them, specifically Beth from, where's Beth from? Everybody Wins, her bookkeeper was out of town for the holiday. I said, just, I don't care if you send me an email or just ask me for your money, but anyway, so she'll get back to me, I'm sure, very soon when the bookkeeper returns, so.
Mhm.
Did the Green Mountain, wasn't the Green Mountain Transit several years ago, wasn't it like $7,000 or $8,000?
Yeah, it
That's what I
was,
thought, yeah.
it was a lot of money, and then when I sat down in my chair, they sent me a request for $2,384, and I'm like, okay, put it in there, so.
They're cutting the Waterbury line
And then
out.
they, well, I don't think these things are connected, you know, but yeah, the request they sent me was for
They're broke.
$400, and so that's what got put on the ballot, and that's what they have to stick with.
Mhm.
To the best of my knowledge, the policy is if they want to increase it, they have to petition.
Right.
So they would have to get 228 signatures from Waterbury residents to petition to get it increased. Clearly, they don't plan to do this year because they just sent me a request, so.
Right.
I do expect a petition from Mosaic, I hope I'm saying that right. They
Yeah.
were soliciting signatures on November 5th.
And they are not,
They're already on here, but
yeah,
they wish to
anticipate
increase, yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know why I think it's 500 instead of 200, but that's the numbers that are playing in my head. So I think that request is gonna be increased a little for 2025, but I imagine that's gonna make a huge impact on your decisions, $100.
When's the deadline for them to all get their reports into us for the annual,
January 10th.
January 10th?
You asked for a deadline, that's the number.
Just saying, making sure,
I figured that's the easiest thing, if
Keep-
everything has the
keep
same
everyone,
date.
everyone January
And
10th.
some I have already. A lot of folks, they send me an invoice, a request, and a annual.
So that's how approving the budgets, I didn't see, I just saw invoices, no reports. or
Oh, yeah, well,
anything.
I'm not gonna put those in the orders, you
Yeah.
know, so.
all right. Thank you for all these updates.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on, text.my.gov. This is something that Tom wanted, asked me to insert in the agenda. He's not here to address it unless someone else knows what he was looking to announce. All I know is that he wanted to talk more about it, so we'll just move this down to next meeting. Woody Avenue outreach.
Any information on
I don't know, I think similar question, I certainly have asked, it had been that we were doing updates on the project, but seeing as we're not,
Right.
happy to move it along, it was, again, just a question of if there was additional information and if that was moving towards a viable project, wanting to make sure we're involving and notifying neighbors and community members.
Yeah, all I know is that Tom identified a potential source of funding for the putting in the sewer line which is like $150,000. Which is not nothing, which would make the whole project more affordable if we can get that paid for, and don't have to get it paid for through the sale of the properties. But beyond that, I know he's got some things in mind about single family versus multifamily housing. And also, of course, we need to take down the current storage shed and build another one in anticipation of all this development. So I don't know where that stands, but wasn't moving along at breakneck speed, from what I understand. But unless anybody else has any updates, we're gonna have to also keep that can down the road. Parking, Woody Avenue and Methodist Church. I did talk this over with Tom last week. Woody Avenue, there was concern expressed by the school about the potential loss of parking through this development.
Okay.
He and Woody went out and looked at the road and feel as though part of this can be addressed by putting parking spaces in, marking parking spaces along one side of Woody Avenue, which, for those of you still listening, are what used to be called Armory Street, down Brookside Armory. So he wanted the board approval to put in markings so that they could put in parking spaces along that road. So we might want to issue provisional approval for that initiative. I don't know whether they're gonna be able to do any more striping on the roads at this point.
Too late.
No,
Too late.
For the next few days, several days, but that could happen. Karen?
You talk about putting parking spots along the street,
Yeah.
won't it be a one-lane street then? Is that street wide enough to put parking on?
I didn't think so either, honestly. Nor did I drive up there and take a look recently, but he and Woody eyeballed it and said that they thought it could happen. I said, you sure the fire chief's
Might have
gonna be
to-
excited about this?
Might have to open that hill on the other side permanently.
Right, yeah, that's
Close
another
the area
exit.
and take down that pole on the top?
So this wasn't
No,
like
no.
allocated parking
It's another
in the
option.
parking lot for the school?
This was to create more parking availability along the street, which currently,
I mean,
I don't know if
as,
it's signed or just people don't park there.
as Tom had proposed, we wouldn't have lost parking in one of those lots.
We're gonna lose some parking in one of those lots,
And they're concerned that,
that it's almost full already.
Where,
And that it's gonna cause problems.
It's full for probably a few days a year.
I don't go up there to know.
yeah, I don't have much. I used to live up there, but I don't remember
I
the parking lot
don't
being
see it
full.
full. There.
When you think about the staff at the Brookside Primary School, there's, I don't know, 20, 30 parking spots tops out front, so most of the staff parks out back. That basketball court has parking spots all over it, and then there's that little lower parking lot where they do
Right,
drop off.
lower
in
and the
morning.
upper.
Yeah,
And then they use that upper parking lot for overflow.
that's what we're talking about.
I'm not sure I could argue that it's full, I don't look at it, but I'm still trying to wrap my mind around parking spots along the street. It feels like,
Yeah, it feels narrow.
it feels like that, but I'm not a public works director, I don't know.
And Woody, I
Oh,
trust.
we got a lot of disinformation, or non-information in
Yeah.
front of us.
Yeah.
But that's what the maybe we can ask for outside help. Anyone have any ideas on this?
Call a friend.
Yeah, we'll use our lifeline.
Woody, I trust.
Hey, Woody,
Yeah.
where are those parking spaces?
I mean, the street's named after him, so if he thinks they can, we can put parking.
Here's like
Amy's
one.
asking to speak.
Okay, Amy.
Sorry.
I share the same concern Karen has. I do go up there. I'm a little lost in what the request is though. Are you being asked to appropriate monies to perform something at this point?
No.
Because if you are, I would say I would do a highway assessment, like even plowing there, they build up berms and then on where Karen was talking about that basketball court, there's a very kind of mushy edging.
We don't
Or,
plow
like-
that. We don't plow that, Amy. They're asking for more parking on the street.
This is on the street
Yeah.
itself, not.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to. I'm just saying that shoulder there, I don't know, I mean, I sat there to watch games. If people were kind of edging to the side to avoid any plowing, you'd have a problem. Like you'd have vehicles going down into that area. So my suggestion is just to have someone from the highway department confirm that because I do believe it's very narrow. And particularly if you get wider vehicles with those protruding.
Those dually wheels.
Yeah, any of that. And I will also say that as somebody who has to go there, so I do some mentoring work there, but there are times, and the school could provide this, so any times where they're doing conferences, they're doing special events, they're having other entities come in and use the space. It's shocking how fast that you are parking down over by the railroad trestle just to get up into the school. So I do think that there are times where there's insurgence of pretty congested parking, particularly at back. And it's really not a lot of space for cars to get in and out when you have, which you're describing those parking spots on the basketball court, for example. Even to back out if you were one row on one side and another row of cars on the other, just to get out of there is really hard if you have a long vehicle, like I have a truck, and it's really difficult. So it just really, I agree with where you were going to really assess the situation before making a final commitment.
All right. So we'll do further assessment when we make any final commitments. All right. Second one, Methodist Church. I don't know if others got the email from Skip today that was forwarded by Tom, saying that the board of the Methodist Church had approved allowing public parking in their lot with certain conditions, and while you may not remember all of them, it included paving that lot, it included improvements of the storm drain in that area, plowing of that lot, and putting in painting spaces, parking spaces. So, and this is in really direct consequence of losing the parking at 51 South Main, which, on which the housing operation is due to begin this month. So it seemed like a good deal to us. They're not asking for any money, they're just asking for physical improvements to the parking lot, which would be an asset both for the town and for the Methodist Church.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
Seems like a lot of money for not many spaces. I don't think that parking lot has all that many spaces, or maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, you can fit a lot in that parking lot.
Can you?
Yeah.
Again, not the parking engineer that needed to answer that question. But I would guess that there have to to be at least 20 spaces there.
I think that's many.
10 on each side. Easy. Any other comments? Also,
I in general think it's prudent, given that I think we are hearing additional constraints around parking and it's more I'm going to have to create new parking, then I will say the town has a precedent. I think we now have a formal MOU with the Congregational Church where we do plow it. It is allowed for public parking during not off hours. I'd just be curious what the cost is. I think there's a cost where it makes complete sense. I'm also curious if as part of maybe the 2025 capital plan, if that paving, striping, sewer costs could be incorporated. So I think it's a great idea, I support continuing to pursue it, but just would want to know the dollar amount for sure. And that there would be an MOU for town parking, so since I haven't seen
yes,
anything.
that was part of it. But yeah, the cost considerations were not part of the email. And we don't know as of yet whether it's incorporated in this plan. May not be.
Just to clarify, they were looking for plowing, paving, painting, and storm?
Yeah, notably that storm drain right at the bottom of Valley Street
Yeah.
is one of the lower points in the downtown.
Yeah.
And one that notably backs up first when the storm drains are overwhelmed by flooding. So they didn't say exactly what the upgrade was needed to be, but it's a storm drain of concern in the downtown area.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not sure we're gonna have a motion on this, but we can note down questions for next time.
Yep.
All right. Postcard rental registry.
I requested this be on the agenda. Unfortunately, I got an email that my laptop is now dead, so I can't share it. So in short, we all passed a rental registry ordinance requiring short and long-term rentals in Waterbury to register beginning next year. My main concern is how we are informing people of this, because I think it's wonderful if we have the policy, but we need to make sure we're encouraging folks. Tom at 6:09 forwarded to me a draft from Mike Bishop, the zoning administrator, of the content for that. It says, "Dear property owner, as part of the rental registry ordinance passed in May, all rental properties within the town of Waterbury are required to be registered. This requirement applies to single-family homes used for rental purposes, accessory dwelling units, short-term rentals, and properties that contain 2 or more rental units used for short or long-term rentals. The deadline to complete your registration is February 1. Registration is free. Please visit waterburyvt.com/rentals to learn more about the ordinance and register your rental today. Thank you, Town of Waterbury." And so my goal is just, I think in the text, Mike says that he proposes maybe waiting to send it out during January, as it might be overlooked during the holidays. Since we're having a fabulous event on January 11th, that's gonna be so fun. What's more fun than a rental industry? We could tell people then, but again, my goal was just, I think it's important that we do send something that is proactive. I would say my goal is that we make it as pleasant as possible for town staff who are suddenly, this is a new and different thing, and candidly, Stowe got a lot of pushback when they actually watched theirs, because there's a difference between passing and implementing a policy, and so I just think it's important we're proactive. Just looking at this for the first time, I think like a QR code to the town website would be great. My assumption is the reason this is later is because the goal is to do this on the online permitting system, which I don't think is up yet. So I don't know if anyone has feedback, but there is no design, it's just a Word document, so happy to review it again. I just wanted to make sure we had a plan to do something, because I think it's important.
Would it be feasible, do you know, to add a QR code to that, so we could just
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
take a picture of it and get clued right in?
I think you can do them right in Canva these days if you have that, or just like bit.ly.com, will make you a QR code, so I can.
Other comments on this one?
What did you say, Miss Information?
I think we should make the postcard really flashy.
The proposal was to do a town-wide postcard mailing informing folks of the new registry.
I'm sorry, I wondered what you're doing with the
But like,
information about.
in the envelope,
What are you
so you
doing with
pull
the
out the
rental
postcard,
registry
the glitter
information?
comes with it.
Yeah.
You'll never forget.
Okay, anthrax.
All right, candidly, as a taxpayer and a landlord, I would like to know
Or
what
just
you're
having
doing
the
with the
postcard pop
information
up
after
with
we
the
give it to
building.
you.
Oh, absolutely.
You just wanna know, and then you're not gonna do anything with it, like, you can see that on my lister file, so why are you doing it?
Right, so, great, sorry, and I didn't mean to be flippant, I didn't fully understand your conversation, so I'll answer for myself and say I felt like this is a lot of what we discussed when we passed the policy, but some of the challenges is that there are some things in some lister cards, they're incomplete. There's a really unclear understanding of what types and amount of houses are being rented in all sorts of different ways in Waterbury. So we as a board, at least during my time, have certainly had folks come and say, there's an Airbnb in my neighborhood, I'm really concerned about the impact. We have no regulations pertaining to those, they're allowed everywhere. We've had folks who haven't been able to get in contact with the property owner. Joe has done really, on the housing task force, really extensive data searching and can get some data on number of dwelling units in Waterbury, but we have no idea how many are seasonal, how are occupied year-round, if someone's actually living there, part-time, renting it, long-term, renting it, short-term. So then we get concerns from folks saying, well, the short-term rentals are taking away from the long-term rentals. And we have no way to answer that question, because I don't even know how many short-term rentals or how many long-term rentals there are in town. So personally, my goal is to be able to answer that question, so if someone's saying, why aren't you doing something about short-term rentals, I'm really concerned, I have data to be able to say, well, actually, we know that there's this many short-term rentals, and that's only 70% of the housing stock, and we're not worried about it. Or to say, whoa, 20% of all of the houses in town are being used for short-term rentals. And now maybe I have a concern about that as a policymaker in town and wanna look at some options. But for me, it's having that data, so I actually am basing the information in reality in Waterbury, not in a one-off story.
Put all of
But
that
it's
on the
headed
postcard.
towards some sort of regulation, otherwise, what use is the.
Well, it's maybe, right? So if it's the extreme one way, maybe regulation, but if it's nothing, then no regulation, right? It depends.
Well, it's more immediately it's being used to generate data to better understand housing dynamics
Right.
and to address a critical need for, to increase housing, and particularly rental housing in the town. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I think when we talk about other things, again, about the housing trust fund, again, questions we've got has been, is this actually making a difference? Will I see the numbers change? And I think that is an important and credible question from folks, and so wanting to be able to say, yes, we've seen over these 3 years this change, or no, and we should do something different. That's what I feel.
So I think part of Karen's question is, should we add a clause in there saying, this is why?
Totally, and I guess
Just
that's my
like a
question of
disclaimer.
like for the, on the town website, like we could do an FAQ, I mean, some of this language is in the ordinance itself, but again, the difference between we all did the traffic ordinance, like it's 49 pages and says where the stop signs are and what it actually means for someone.
Just
and
wait
what-
till you're holding those papers that close.
So, and one, just what the information is, what it's, to be clear, all I think completely legitimate questions, and the goal is to get ahead of it so we don't have 19 people the same question, which I won't be here to answer as well.
Just candidly, as a landlord in Waterbury, this gives me anxiety. Because I already have this higher standard of all sorts of things that I have to deal with. And then you bring it to a municipal level, and I feel like it's another layer of standard, it's gonna make me not wanna be a landlord. So I do worry that this might be counterproductive for your desires to get more rental. I'm just being candid as a landlord, like it's already a commitment and a responsibility. So that's why I asked, what are you doing with it? Because if I have another regulation, I'm just selling it all and leaving, and somebody from Connecticut can buy my duplexes and do whatever they want with them. So that's just Karen talking about her in the town clerk type thing.
Karen.
Yeah,
Um,
many personalities running here.
I think the other thing that I heard in your question was what happens with this information? Is it, gonna be sold to another Karen somewhere that could then start marketing stuff to them? But the answer is probably no. But we might want to also say your information will not be shared.
That would be huge.
Yes,
right?
I think
Because,
a disclaimer that says the town of Waterbury is not in the business of selling data is probably a good disclaimer to have.
Yeah.
And-
More specifically, we're not gonna sell this data.
but be aware that almost anything that comes in this building is public knowledge.
Right.
So do you have the ability to say that and
Well, we're not
actually
selling
back
it.
up?
No, we actually got a legal opinion, because I wanted to be able to answer this about what can be redacted if it was requested. We did get
So what
the
can
town
be
attorney,
redacted?
the contact info.
Any contact information will not be shared.
I think that's kind of silly, right, Alyssa? If I own 775 Maple Street and you just don't put my name on the manifest, all you have to do is walk in and ask who owns 77 Maple Street, and I have to tell you it's me. So you're redacting it from like an online database, but that doesn't mean that the information isn't gonna be accessible or shared. Do you understand what I mean? Just because it's not on a manifest
But is
doesn't
that
mean it's not
Different
obtainable.
than a property tax bill saying?
No, it's not
Property-
different, except
Yeah, so
for
that's what I'm saying.
right now, nobody in the greater world of state regulations knows that we have a pretty little document that, I'll give you an example. Sticks and Stuff or Bourne's Energy or any other contractor in this community walks in here and asks for a manifest of all the houses being built so they can go solicit business. And we have to provide that information. So if somebody wants to know who owns all the rental units in Waterbury, they don't have to tell me why they want to know it. If I have it, I have to give it to them. Redacting a name or a phone number doesn't necessarily protect me from a fire marshal walking up and knocking on my door and saying, that rug right there is a hazard and you have to move it. Like, I understand I'm over dramatizing it a little bit, but these are some of the things. I have to put on a handrail because somebody told me to. Or, I have to move my dumpster over there because somebody doesn't like it where it is. There's this constant umbrella of regulations around rentals to begin with. You don't even have to dive deep into the fact that our tenants have all the rights. So anyway, that's why I'm anxious about it. I'm sorry to go on for so long, but it does give me a little bit of like, oh, I really, and I heard all the meetings, right? I was here for all of them, so I know what the intent is. It's beyond the intent that I worry about.
It's just gonna be a really big postcard.
No, I think I really appreciate it. I think if you're asking, people are gonna ask the same question, so we need to have answers.
Yeah,
So
there were other
and that's-
landlords
so
here
too.
that were anxious about this.
Yes, sure.
So,
Well, I'm wondering, can we gather the data without including specific addresses?
How would you do that?
Just, well, I guess part of it is that they are asking for contact information for Airbnbs, right? So maybe that's a.
Well, the addresses would also help us with the data to figure out where concentrations of long-term and short-term housing are. I feel like redacting the address, maybe public-facing, but I don't think that's legal. Is it? Like redacting an address when it's public information anyway?
I don't know, we did get,
Just like your
we
list, your
did-
tax information has all the addresses.
Yeah, I'll get you in a second, Mike.
Your tax information has all addresses, and you get it that way, so it's.
Yeah.
It's out there.
But,
Oh, yeah, all I'm trying to know.
Karen's point is like,
I
that,
understand why.
that information is available if you wanna go out and look for it.
Right.
What we're doing is putting it all together
Yeah.
in a little package that people could just say, oh, by the way, send me all your data on rental industry. Ellen?
Didn't you basically write it into the ordinance what data you're gonna collect?
Mm-hmm.
So like, how much can you really change that now?
Yeah, it may not be a possibility.
Yeah.
But the redaction piece could be amended. Ian, you have
For
anything?
what it's worth, I
Nope,
think
just-
just keeping it off the internet, so it can't be like straight fiber lots would be a really helpful step. Like if somebody has to come in, physically walk in and ask that question to a person, rather than just having the whole database online, I think would be, help calm people's fears about that. Because I don't want all my contact info online.
Yeah, I don't think that the intent of this was to create an online database.
No,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Maybe
I don't think it's in the
making it
language
clear
either.
How it could be accessed.
All right.
I think, okay, I think what we're talking about right now is what we're putting on this postcard.
Yeah.
This whole discussion can't take place on that.
On a huge jumbo postcard?
We can, yeah.
I think simple information, as is, here's what the registry is, here's where you can find it. I don't think like the disclaimers about, here's what we're doing with this information, because then you're gonna have a really long-winded postcard.
No, but they should be on the website,
Yeah.
so that where we're sending people, it's
Yeah.
clear.
Right.
I think
So
that's
put it on
the,
the webpage instead of on a postcard.
I think, Ken, I mean, I do this for a living, is boiling down stuff into short sentences, so I could help.
so it sounds like we want to re-review this at our next meeting with some additional text and re-review. the
Yeah, since
information.
we're not putting it out until January.
Or do the 16th. And again, per Kate's point, there's what's on the postcard and there's relitigating this entire topic, which I don't want process to get in the way of it, but Evan's saying we approve the registry, we approve the questions for it. It's been in front of us before. If there's something wrong with it, that doesn't mean I don't want to address a correction before it's out there, but right, it should be a bigger conversation.
All right. If we were playing kick the can, we would have like really wrapped it up tonight. I think that's it until we get to next meeting agenda, which is most of what we had on this agenda. So that makes it pretty easy.
I think this is going to warrant a larger discussion with Tom. We have to start the budget talks, like, where are we putting everything?
One thing for the next agenda is the date of the next agenda, because Tom had a conflict on the 9th. We determined that he would like to do it on the 10th, and I think that works for everybody. That's a Tuesday, Mike. Mike, you're the one person I didn't hear from.
Just a heads up, the Conservation Commission has a meeting planned for that day. That's our standing Tuesday meeting.
I just pulled up the calendar.
Okay, so we have to find an alternative site.
Well, curiously,
Or if there's an alternative meeting space for us, I just was sharing so we can help us coordinate.
Yep.
It would be probably challenging to move it for us. Maybe I could try, but usually we have a pretty set.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Tom has to be here anyway for E5.
Oh.
Curiously, is that discussed, having it Wednesday?
He didn't, he said he preferred Tuesday. I didn't get into it. I was not prescient enough to think of Wednesday. But he suggested Tuesday, and Tuesday works for King because the res is closed Tuesday.
I see, okay. So Tuesday's the preference.
That's what I understand. What do you, so?
Well, the conflict is what Amy brought up, the Conservation Commission's on the 10th. So we either have to see if we would either have to meet in the cell room, they would have to meet in the cell room, we'd have to see if the cell room's even available.
Okay.
Library.
Amy, do you usually stick to an hour and a half? Like, would you be done by 7:30 or is that unrealistic?
Yes, yeah, no, we can, yes. We're
So-
usually pretty close.
Because alternately, we could see about our meeting
So the
starting at
10th
7:30.
The library commissioners meet in the cell room at the 11th. So, but you want the 10th. So there'd be potentially a conflict, potentially, I guess it depends. If the library commissioners are done by 7, it says 7. And you could maybe meet in the cell room, I would have to ask tomorrow. It's a possibility. Or, Amy, what time's your meeting start? 6? What time's your meeting?
6.
Okay,
6 to 7:30.
okay.
I haven't gone too far down the agenda, so if we need to close a half hour early, I think that's doable as well.
Okay. All right, well, I would have to let you know if there's an alternative space, somebody would have to move. Usually the select board takes precedent, Amy, but I wouldn't leave you hanging out to dry there, I would help find an alternative space, so.
Is the requirement that we have to be in town, right? I have access to the Stowe Library, but I think we have to meet in our town, correct?
I think you can meet remote, you can do all remote.
Okay, I gotta double check. I can't remember with the new COVID, since COVID, if we have to have a public attendance option.
I have to
That
look
is-
myself, I don't think so.
100%,
Yeah.
Zoom.
I would have to check to make sure that you're compliant. I know we can't. I know the select board has to have a place, but your board might be able to do all remote.
Well,
Yeah,
But all this,
that would be,
I would
Alright.
need till tomorrow. I can't
yeah, why don't
get to
we,
this tonight.
kick this down the road as well? And, I'm fine meeting at 7:15 or 7:30 to accommodate the Conservation Commission.
Oh, okay, so that's an option then too, just move your meeting time to 7:30 on the 10th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep people up late.
and I can request a shortening. We're gonna focus primarily on grants, and if we have an hour, I think we can have a pretty good conversation if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be.
Gives a little bit of time of transition, changeover.
Exactly.
Let me
Okay.
work on our options.
Anything else people wanted to add to the agenda? We've got Velco, we've got almost everything that was on this one, so it'll look very familiar next time
Well, I
around.
put rental registry postcard on the 16th.
Okay, yeah, let's kick that one to the
That's a
16th.
great idea.
Yeah, and also the skate park, we'll invite them for the 16th.
Oh, okay.
But we will have a discussion of the skate park funding on the 9th.
Oh, okay.
Or 10th now. And we won't have an executive session, so unless other people have other things that they would like to add to the next week's agenda, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.